All right. Hilchot Dei'os, Perek Chamishi, Chapter 5 of the Laws of Personal Development. Today we're going to see all about how a Chacham, a person who lives by the principles that the Rambam gave us in the last 4 days, how he lives in action. Till now we're talking about in Dei'ot, which means in character. Now we're going to see literally, when it gets to the physical, down-to-earth, physical actions, he's also different. Says the Rambam, Keshem. Just like Chacham Nikar b'chokhmato v'deotav, just like you can tell a wise man apart in his wisdom and in his character. V'hu muvdal b'hem mishar ha'am, and he's separate from them. He's distinguishable from the rest of the people in the way he thinks and the way he behaves in his character. Kach tzarich sheyeh nikar b'ma'asav. In the same way, he has to be recognizable in his physical deeds. Whenever we say keshem kach, it means exactly the same. A person who's totally sunken in wisdom, a person who's totally absorbed in wisdom, his wisdom takes over his entire character. There's nothing about him that contradicts that wisdom. So it manifests itself, it reveals itself in everything that he does. And the Rambam counts 9 things. Together with Ma'asav, it's 10. Al-Pi Kabbalah, there's also 10 Sefirot, so it matches that the 10 parts of a person match the 10 parts of Hashem. The Ma'asav in his actions. B'ma'achalo, the way he eats. Uv'mashkehu, the way he drinks. We're referring specifically to drinking alcohol, wine. Uvivi'ilato, in his relations. Uva'asiyat tzrachav, in the way he goes to the bathroom. Uvidiburo, the way he speaks. Uvihilucho, the way he walks. Uvimalbusho, the way he dresses. Uvichilkul dvarav, the way he manages his affairs. Uvimasa'o, uvimatano, and the way he does business. V'yiyu kol ha'ma'asim ha'elu na'im u'metukanim biyoter. Everything he does on all these categories should be nice and fixed. In other words, in a special, orderly way. The Rambam doesn't mention sleep, even though 2 days ago we talked about serving Hashem while you sleep. So the Rebbe explains, because you can't do anything while you sleep. If you want to be a proper person when you sleep, you have to prepare yourself before sleep. So that's where the Chacham comes in, before he goes to sleep. Of course, when he sleeps, you serve Hashem. But you can't necessarily tell a Chacham apart by what he does when he actually sleeps, so much so as when he prepares before he goes to sleep. So now we're going to go in order for the next 13 halachot in this perek. We're going to go through each category. First eating, then drinking, etc. So we start with eating. Ketzat. How does this apply when it comes to eating? Talmid Chacham. Lo yiyeh gargaran. A Talmid Chacham should not be a glutton. Zolel v'saveh. He just gobbles down his food. Ela ochel ma'achal hara'ui lehavrot gufo. First of all, he eats only foods that are good to make his body healthy. And even then, v'lo yochal mimeno achila gasa. He doesn't overeat too much of those foods. He doesn't seek, he doesn't chase to fill up his stomach. Like those people who fill themselves up from food and drink so much till their stomach blows up. And about such people who do chase those physical pleasures, it says in Kabbalah is a halachic word for Navi. It says in the prophets, "V'zeiriti peresh al penechem, peresh chagechem." I'm going to throw the feces, the human waste, in your face, the waste that's created from your holidays. Literally, the verse is talking about somebody who brings a korban on the chag without the proper intention. But here the Rambam refers it to somebody who acts like every day is a holiday. Amru chachamim, said the sages, Elu b'nei adam she'ochlin v'shotin ve'osin kol yemehem kechagim. These are people that eat and drink and make all their days like a holiday. They feast every day, a huge meal. V'heima ha'omrim, and they're the ones who say, Achol v'shatokin machar namut. Let's eat and drink because tomorrow we're going to die. V'zeo ma'achal ha'resha'im. This is the way the Sha'im eat. V'shulchanot elu, and at about these tables, Heim sheginah ha'katuv v'amar. They are the ones that the verse disparaged. It embarrasses it, disgraces it, and says, Ki kol shulchanot mal'u kitzoa. All the tables are full of vomit and waste. Bli makom, with no room for anything else. Or bli makom also means without Hashem. Hashem is called makom. These people, they just overstuff themselves. Aval hacham eino ochel ela tafshil echad o shnayim. Talmid Chacham only eats one cooked dish or two. The ochel mimeno kedei chayav, and even that, he only eats what he needs to live. V'dayo, and that's enough. Hu she'amar Shlomo. That's what Shlomo HaMelech said. Tzaddik ochel l'sova nafsho. A tzaddik, a righteous person, a person who's behaving on the right path, he eats only enough what he needs to fill up his soul. So all that is what he eats. Now let's talk about how a chacham eats. Halacha bet, keshe chacham ochel ma'at zeh hara'ui lo. When a chacham eats this little bit that's befitting for him, lo yochleno ela beveto al shulchano. He only eats it in his house, at his table. V'lo yochal b'chanut v'lo bashuk. He would never eat in a marketplace or on the street, Ela mipnei tzorech gadol, only if there's a huge need, kedei shelo yitganeh b'fnei habriot, so that he should not become disgusting in the eyes of people. V'lo yochal es alamei haaretz, he also should not eat near or in the company of amei haaretz. Those are people that are just called the men of the land. They don't keep halachot fully. Lower class of the Jewish people. V'lo al otan hashulchanot hamaleim kitzoah. And he also doesn't eat by those tables that are full of vomit and waste. In other words, the ones from the last halacha, people who overstuff themselves, he doesn't eat by those tables. And he doesn't eat too much anyways, any place. Even if he's with wise people. He eats privately in his house, by his table, that's it. And he doesn't either eat at meals that have a lot of people. Even if there are only chachamim around. He doesn't eat. It's not befitting that he should eat from other people's food. Ella bisuda shel mitzvah bilvad. Only by a mitzvah feast. Kigon sudat erusin v'nisuin, like a suda of engagement. In those days, engagement was a lot more than what it is today. Like a proper kiddushin. You'd give a ring and she's yours. They haven't gotten married yet. And the nisuin, the actual marriage. V'hu, but even then, when does a Talmid Chacham eat by a Sudat Mitzvah? Sheyiyeh Talmid Chacham shenasa bat Talmid Chacham. If the wedding people are proper people. If it's a Talmid Chacham getting married to the daughter of a Talmid Chacham, that's a good shidduch, that's a good Sudah where he can eat at. V'atzadikim v'achasidim harishonim lo achlu misudah sheina shelahem. There was a special minhag that these righteous people had. They would never eat from a Sudah which didn't belong to them. Some commentaries say it means even a Sudat Mitzvah. They had an extra custom. Unless they would give like a little bit of money towards the people, now they had a part in the meal. As a hafach, it became a sudah shalahen, so they could eat there. Others say it just means we're talking about without sudat mitzvah. Every other meal, if it wasn't theirs, they didn't eat. So those two halachot cover machalo, cover the food. Now let's talk about mashkehu, how a chacham drinks. Halacha gimel, k'sheh chacham shoteh yain, when a wise man drinks wine or any other alcoholic beverage. He only drinks with the purpose of washing down the food in his stomach. If you get drunk, intoxicated, first of all, you're a sinner. It's disgusting behavior. And you lose your wisdom. And if you get drunk in front of people who are lower class Jews, and then they could think that you're behaving like them, that's a chilul Hashem. That's creating Hashem's name. And during the afternoon times, you should never drink wine, even a little bit. Unless it was part of food. If you're in the middle of a meal and you drink, it never gets you drunk. Typically, it sounds like in the Talmud's times, people who drink during afternoon were trying to get drunk. That's why in general we don't have Birkat Kohanim by Mincha. Even those places that have everyday Birkat Kohanim, you don't do it by Mincha. Why? Because we say that during the day meal, people got drunk. So you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't drink wine during the afternoon, and the Chacham does not do that. However, the only time we have to be careful is wine after food. During a meal, not a problem. After the meal, that's a problem. Now we move on to Bi'ilato, the laws of a Chacham and his relations. Halacha Dalet. Afal pi she'ishto shel adam muteret lo tamid. Even though the wife of a man is permitted to him constantly, of course we mean during the permitted time, not during when she's a nida, but during the time that's permitted, you can do. She's permitted all the time. It's befitting for a sage to behave in holiness. And he shouldn't be found by his wife like a rooster. In the Talmud, we find the rooster is always used as an expression when it comes to too much relations. Because you can see it on Google today also. Roosters, if they can, they mate 10 to 30 times a day. So we're talking about extreme here. He shouldn't be found by his wife like a rooster. Ella. Rather, what's a Talmid Chacham's behavior? Milele Shabbat, lilele Shabbat. Every Friday night, in Yesh Bo Koach, if he had the strength for it. It sounds like the commentaries say that learning Torah fully invested could actually weaken your strength. And so, today's Friday. Wow, how do you like that? So Friday night to Friday night. Later on, we're going to see there's many halachot about the different times for different people's jobs. Depending on your job, you have different obligations to your wife. Talmid Chacham, once a week. And it should be on Shabbat.
Fridays?
Yeah, that's the ideal. Today, the commentaries say that it's much more difficult to control yourself that much. So, some of these rules don't apply. Ukeshahu mesaper ima, says the Rambam, when he speaks with her, speaking is a euphemism for relations. Lo yisaper bitchilat halayla, he should not do so at the beginning of the night. when he's full and his stomach is still full. Nor at the end of the night when he's hungry. Only in the middle of the night, when the food is beginning to digest in his stomach. Again, over here, the commentaries say, today's day and age, people can't withstand the test. If you're thinking about intimacy already from the beginning of the night and holding yourself in is not going to do anything better to you, it's going to make it worse. Even the Rebbe wrote many times in letters that he doesn't hold of this for regular young people. Just getting married, you don't have to wait till midnight. During relations, he should not be too light-headed. He shouldn't dirty his mouth with empty words, even between him and her. It says in Navi, in the prophets, Hashem tells the man what his speech was. Amru chachamim, say the sages, afilu sicha kala, even the light talk, shebein adam li yishto, that takes place privately between man and his wife, atid, liten aleh, tadin, a person will going to give accounting for that, because even that speech has to be managed, has to be proper. There you go. And the two of them should not be lo shikorim, not drunk, v'lo atzlanim, not lazy, like in a down mood, v'lo atzbanim, not depressed, v'lo echad me'en, and neither one of them. Even one can't be in the wrong mood. The woman should not be sleeping. She shouldn't rape her if she doesn't want. Obviously with the will of both of them and in joy. They should be in a state of joy. Rambam does say you should speak and laugh a little bit with her. So she becomes calm. But then you engage in relations modestly, not brazenly. Then you withdraw immediately after you're done without sticking around for too much. So, that's as far as the way to do it, the mood to do it, and how to speak. It says that halacha hey, kol hanoheg min hagzeh, any talmid chacham who behaves in this manner of behavior, lo dai lo shekidesh nafsho. It's not enough. Not only did he succeed in sanctifying his soul, v'tiher atzmo, and purifying himself, v'tiken deotav, and fixing his character, ela she'im hayu lo banim, if children will emerge from this union, yiyu na'im u'baishanim, they will be beautiful and modest, re'uyin lechochma v'lechasidut, befitting for wisdom and for piety. But if you behave in the behaviors of other people who walk in the dark, yiyu lo banim kamo atam ha'am, his children will be like those people who act that way as well. So this is as far as bi'ilato. Now we're going to move to asiyat tzrachav, going to the bathroom. Halacha vav. Tzniut gdola nohagim talmidei chachamim be'atzman. Wise men behave with extreme modesty. Lo yidbazu, they never become disgraced in public. V'lo yidgalu roshan v'lo gufan, they don't have their heads uncovered or their bodies uncovered. V'afilu b'sha'a she'ikanes lebet hakisei yehet tzanua, and even when he goes to the bathroom, he is still modest. V'lo yigaleh begadav ad sheyeshev. One of the ways it's expressed is that he does not uncover himself till he sits down. V'lo yikaneach biyamin, he also does not wipe himself with his right hand, because it's the one that's used to put on tefillin. Many commentaries say this only applies when you're cleaning with your hand alone. In those days, they didn't have tissues like we have today, so they would actually use their hands and then wash it later. So that you can't use your actual right hand. If you're using tissues, then most people say you can use your right hand. He also would distance himself from all people. He wouldn't just go to the bathroom anywhere. Publicly. He would go a little off, out of the road. If he could, he would go in a room within a room, a cave inside a cave, and over there relieve himself. If it happened that he needed to go to the bathroom right behind the fence, so people are walking on the road, he just goes behind the fence and he's right there, he would still distance himself enough so that any person shouldn't hear the sound, if there's two meanings. Either it means if he passes gas while he's going to the bathroom, or if he's constipated. So if there's any noise during the bathroom process, he should be far enough that nobody should hear him. Again, if it happened that he had to go to the bathroom in an open plain, he would go far enough that nobody walking by in the main road can see him even uncovered. So again, ideally, he goes inside a room, deep inside a cave. If he had to, he would distance enough that people shouldn't either see him or hear him. You shouldn't speak while you go into the bathroom, even for great needs. Even the same way he behaves modestly by day in a bathroom, so too by night. Same level of tzniut, even though nobody can see. Doesn't make a difference. Now, ideally, the best practice is always a person should teach himself or train himself to go to the bathroom for solid waste in the morning and in the evening, so you don't have to go far off from people during the day. You just have to take care of yourself in the morning and evening when it's that common time. So we did eating, drinking, relations, and bathroom. Now we're going to speaking. Halacha Zayin. Talmid Chacham. Lo yehet zo'ek v'tzoveach b'shat diburo ki behemot v'chayot. A wise man should not scream and shout when he talks, like animals and beasts. Lo yagbia kolo b'yoter. And he shouldn't raise his voice too much. Ela diburo benachat im kol habriot. Rather, he speaks pleasantly with all people. Ukishe yedaber benachat. But when you speak pleasantly, there's also a risk. Yizaher, you have to be careful. Shelo yitrachek. That you shouldn't distance yourself. Ad sheyera'eh kedivrei gasei haruach, till it seems like you're speaking like a haughty person. So either distance means in space. Some commentaries say like you just stand far away from who you speak to. But also you can speak in a distant way, in a condescending way. I'm speaking so pleasantly, but everybody can feel that I think I'm higher than you. So that's also not a way for a Talmid Chacham to speak. Umakdim shalom l'chol ha'adam. Another trait involving speech is that he always greets people first. Kedei shetehiruchan nocha hemenu, so that their spirit should be pleasant around him. You greet people first, they feel comfortable around you. V'dan et kol ha'adam lekaf zchut, and he judges every person favorably. Misaper b'shvach chavero v'lo bignuto klal. He speaks only about the praise of his friend and not at all about his negativity. Now this seems like Lashon Hara. It's a basic prohibition. You can't speak against your friend. What's special about a Chacham? Some commentaries want to say it means that you don't say good things that could lead to bad. Sometimes if you're in front of the right or the wrong people and you say, you know this guy, he's such an amazing guy and that guy really hates him, so it brings to negative thoughts. It brings to gnut, v'lo bignuto klal. The problem with that is that that's also said later on clearly. It's part of Lashon Hara. So the Rebbe explains it's coming in continuation to dan lekaf zchut. When you're dan lekaf zchut, the situation always is that you see somebody doing something negative. When do you give somebody the benefit of the doubt? When you see them doing something negative and you tell yourself, it's really positive.
There's got to be a reason.
There's got to be a reason, right? So that's what a Chacham does. When he's being dan lekaf zchut, when he sees someone doing something negative, but he's judging them favorably, even then, misaper b'shvach chavero, he only speaks about the positive elements of the actions. He doesn't even speak about the negative parts of the actions. And when a person does that, he actually takes away from the person's bad intentions. A Chacham can do that. By speaking positively about somebody, he reduces the level of negative behavior in the other person. Ohev shalom, v'rodev shalom. He loves peace, he chases peace. Imro'eh shedvarav mo'ilim v'nishma'im omer. And therefore, because he's all about peace, so if he sees that whatever he's going to say is going to be worthwhile, it's going to be heard, he says it. V'im lav shotek. And if not, he doesn't speak. For example, what are some classic examples when you know that what you say will not be heard? Ketzad, how is this? Lo yiratzeh chavero b'shat kaso. Don't try to appease your friend in his moment of anger. Nobody takes appeasement when they're actually angry. V'lo yish'al lo al nidro b'sha'ah shenadar. Neither should he ask him about his vow at the moment that he made the vow. He's in the heat of it. He's not going to want to regret it. Till his mind cools down and he rests a little bit, then it's fine. He also shouldn't comfort him when the dead body is right there. He hasn't even been buried yet. Don't be comforting him yet. Because he is unsettled, he's worried until he buries him, and therefore he won't take your words of comfort. And also anything similar. You also shouldn't make sure to see your friend, to watch him when he's in an embarrassing situation. Rather, he should cover his eyes. Don't try to look at his downfall. He never changes his word. Change his word either means goes back on his word, or it means when he talks, he doesn't distort facts. He doesn't exaggerate or minimize. Doesn't add or take away details. The only time is if he's speaking for peace. Then you can exaggerate, like Aaron Kohen. He would go to one guy and tell him, your wife wants to forgive you. Then you go to the wife and say, the husband wants to forgive you. He would say a little bit higher purpose lying so that he could make shalom. That's the one time a Chacham will change his words. White lies. There you go. Klalo shel davar. The rule, general rule, a guiding principle is, Eino medaber ela b'divrei chochma, o bigmut chasadim v'chayotzei bahen. He only speaks if it's words of wisdom or words of kindness. V'lo yisaperi misha bashuk. He never speaks to a woman in a marketplace, in the public, afilu ishto o achoto o bito, even if it's his wife, sister, or daughter. The commentaries say we're talking about a place where his family is not known to the public, so seeing him speak in public with these women will arouse suspicion. Now we're going to move to Hilucho, the way a Chacham walks. Halacha chet lo yelech talmid Chacham b'komaz kufa v'garon atui. A wise man should not go with an upright posture and an outstretched neck, ka'inyan shene'emar, as it says in the Navi, when he rebukes the Bnot Yisrael. He says, "Vatelachna netuyot garon umesakrot einayim." They used to go with their necks outstretched and their eyes with too much makeup. On the other hand, he shouldn't walk, heel next to thumb, too slowly. Like women do that and Hari people do that for different reasons. Women do that in the olden times for sure because they used to walk very carefully. It was like a very dainty way of walking, very well mannered. And Hari people also, they wanted everyone to see them, so they walk very slowly. So a Chacham shouldn't do that. Shouldn't walk too slowly. As it says, haloch v'tafof telachna. They walk and they mince as they go. Mince is like when you do something purposely to be stately, walking very slow. Uveraglehem ta'akasna, and they make a tinkling noise with their feet. You don't do that. He walks normally. On the other hand, v'lo yarutz b'shut harabim ki minhag mishugaim. He shouldn't run in the public place like crazy people do. V'lo yichpof komato keba'alei chatoteret, and he shouldn't bend his posture too much like a hunchback. Ela mishtakel lemata, he has his eyes averted downwards. Kemoshehu omed batfilah, as though he was standing during davening. Umahalech bashuk, and he should go in the market. Ka'adam shu tarud ba'asakav, like a man who's busy. When a person is busy, he walks purposefully with intent. He doesn't get distracted, but he's not either removed. He's walking very, properly. In fact, some texts have the word mahalech b'shaveh, not b'shuk. They switch the kuf for a hey. He should walk with an equal manner of walking. Gam mimahalacho shel adam. You wouldn't believe it, but even from a person's walking, nikarim chacham ubal de'ahu, you can tell if he's a wise man or a man of knowledge, or shotev v'sachal, or a fool or an idiot. The Chen Amar Shlomo b'chachmato said Shlomo Melech in his wisdom, the gam baderech k'shehasachal holech. Even on the road, when a fool walks, libo chaser, his heart is lacking. V'amar lakol sachalhu, and he tells everyone, I'm a fool. Hu modia lakol al atzmo shu sachal. He notifies everybody about himself that he is a fool. Now we're moving on to clothing. Halakha tet. Malbush talmid chacham. Malbush na'ev naki. The clothes of a wise man are clean and beautiful. V'asur lo sheyimatzeh bebigdo ketem. It's forbidden that it should be found on the clothes of a talmid chacham, a stain, or shamnunit, or fat, v'chayotzeh bahan, anything like it. V'lo yilbash. He should not wear too extravagant clothing. Lo malbush malachim. Not the clothing of the kingdom. Like gold and purple clothing, because everyone looks at them. Attracts too much attention. Neither should he wear the clothes of poor people, which embarrass those who wear them. Average, nice clothes. His skin should not be visible under his clothes. Like the very light, very sheer linen clothes that they make in Egypt. Rambam lived in Egypt, so he knew firsthand. His clothes shouldn't drag on the ground, like the Hari people do. Until the heel is where the pants or the cloak should go. And his sleeves should reach to the edges of his fingers. He also shouldn't let his talis drape too low down because it seems like hariness. Only on Shabbat, if you have no other clothes to switch into. So the way that you make Shabbat different from the rest of the week is that on Shabbat you let your talis drape a little bit lower. Huh? He should not wear shoes that have too many patches. Tlai al gabe tlai. Patch on a patch. If it has one patch, it's fine, but it's too many patches, it looks disastrous. It's only forbidden in the summertime. But if in the rain time and he was poor, it's allowed. Rashi explains because the mud will cover the patches. It's interesting. So he anyways walking around in the mud, no one's going to see the patches. Another part of clothing is that you shouldn't go out with perfume to the market, or with clothing that you apply perfume to them. Shouldn't put perfume in his hair. The only exception is aval im mashach besaro bebosem. If he smeared his flesh with perfume, to take away filth or dirt or a bad smell, then mutar, that's permitted. He shouldn't go out alone at night, unless he had a set time, where he goes out to learn. All of these things because of suspicion about immorality. Halacha Yud, managing his affairs. Talmid Chacham, mechalkel dvarav b'mishpat. He manages his things, his finances, his household with good judgment. Ochel v'shoteh v'zan et anshe beito. He gives food and drink and feeds his family kefi mamono v'hatzlachato, according to his capability monetarily and his success. On the other hand, v'lo yatriach al atzmo yoter midai. He doesn't bother himself too much, put too much pressure on himself. Tzivu chachamim b'derech eretz. The sages, when they were talking about manners, they commanded us, shelo yochal adam basar elo l'te'avon, that he shouldn't eat meat unless he has extreme appetite for it. Shene'emar ki ta'aven nafshecha le'echol basar. When you want to, desire to eat meat, then you can include meat in the menu. Otherwise, it should stay out. Vayola bari le'echol basar me'erev Shabbat le'erev Shabbat. It's enough for a healthy person to eat meat once a week on Shabbat, Friday night. V'im haya ashir k'dei le'echol basar b'chol yom. If you were rich enough, you could afford eat meat every day. Okay, no problem, eat meat. Tzivu chachamim v'amru. Said the sages, this is their guiding light. They said, le'olam yochal adam pachot min hara'ui lo lefi mamono. A person himself should eat less than what his money can afford. V'yilbash kara'ui lo. He should wear what he could afford. V'yechabed ishto banav yoter min hara'ui lo. He should honor his wife and children more than what he can afford. In other words, more than what's befitting for his own standard. Halacha Yud Aleph is also part of managing your finances. Derech ba'alei de'ah. It is the way of people that have sound mind. Sheyigbalo adam melacha hamefarneset otot tchila. That first thing first, find yourself a job which gets you enough money. Then buy yourself a house to live in. And only afterwards get married. As it says in the verse, when the verse was talking about people who had to go back from war, there's 3 people who had to go back from war: a person who made a new vineyard, a house, or just got married. And the order is in that way. First it says, Mi ha'ish asher nata kerem v'lo chilolo. Who is a man who has planted a vineyard and hasn't yet had time to enjoy it? Mi ha'ish asher bana bayit chadash v'lo chanacho. Who built a new house and didn't inaugurate it? Mi ha'ish asher eras isha v'lo lekacha. Who betrothed a woman and didn't marry her? So first the vineyard, the parnasa, then the house, then the wife. Avala tipshin. We'll get there in a second. Avala tipshin. But the fools, matchilin lisa isha. They begin by marrying a woman. Then if they ever afford it, they buy themselves a house. And then at the end of his life, he goes to find a trade, or he ends up relying on charity, which is no way to live. As it says in the curses in Parshat Kitavo, it says, Isha ta'ares, first you're going to marry a woman, Bayi tivna, you'll build a house, Kerem tita, you'll plant a vineyard, Klomar, which means, Yiyu ma'asecha hafuchin, you will engage in the opposite way of the actions, so you don't have success. But when it comes to blessings, we always talk about success, but if you do it right, you will have success. David in every way was successful, Hashem imo, and Hashem was with him. So how do the Bnei Torah, all the Bnei Yeshiva, all the generations do the opposite? And Shmoneh Esrei Lechupa. It says in the Mishnah that before Lirdof, Ben Esrim Lirdof, 20 to go and make a business, it says first to get married. So everything it says in Pirkei Avot is Midat Chasidut. It's Lifnim. It's beyond the letter of the law. If you live by the letter of the law, this is the way you go. But if you have such faith in Hashem, that Hashem will provide for you, and not because you're planning to rely on charity and get out of it. You're going to take on your responsibility fully, and you trust in Hashem, extra bitachon, then you can go and get married first, and then be sure that Hashem will give you parnasa. In fact, I saw someone that commented right yesterday. I saw that he says that today's day and age, gashmiut is much more abundant. There's much more opportunity physically. So a person who gets married first doesn't run the high risk of not being able to provide financially because there's so much more opportunity. But mainly, as the Rebbe would always say, it's about bitachon. A person should not be occupied with tachlis. Shouldn't be occupied with making sure that I have everything settled in, and only then I'm going to get married. Because what happens is then you don't get married. You spend too much time, and then you don't settle down. Be that as it may, the letter of the law is as follows. Halacha Yud Bet ve'asur lo le'adam lehafkir o lehakdish kol nechasav v'yatriach ala briot. It's forbidden in general for a person to declare ownerless or to consecrate to Hashem all of his property and then say, I'm going to have people support me. He also should not sell a field in exchange for a house. Don't sell a house to buy movable objects or to invest the money that you get from the house. You shouldn't go down from the higher levels to lower levels of permanence. But you can sell movable objects to buy a field. Which means the general rule is yasim megamato. He should place his goal lahatzliach nechasav, that his property should succeed, should grow exponentially. Ulahachlif hakaleh bakayam, and he should always change that which does not last to that which does last. So go from movable to real estate, but don't go from real estate to movable. Kavanato lehanot ma'at lefi sha'ah, and his intention should never be just to have a little bit of pleasure temporarily, or lehanot ma'at v'yafsid harbe, or to have a little bit of pleasure in the end get a great loss. It seems like a double expression. Some commentaries say that it should first say, "V'lo tiyeh kavanato lihitnaot." You shouldn't look to show off just for a little bit, because in the end, that's going to be a little bit of pleasure for a lot of loss. Final halacha about business. Halacha yud gimel. Masa'o umatano shel talmid chacham be'emet uve'emunah. A sage does business with truth and with faithfulness. Omer al lav lav ve'al hein hein. When his answer is no, he says no. When it's yes, he says yes. Midagdek al atzmo becheshbon. For himself, he's extremely precise in his accounting. V'noten u'mevater la'achirim k'sheyikach mehen v'lo yidagdek alehen. When he buys from others, he gives extra. He lets things go. He's not too exacting. V'noten dmei mikach le'altar. He always pays for stuff up front. Doesn't go on credit when it's too much and not the accepted norm. Ve'eno na'aseh. He never becomes lo arev, not a guarantor. V'lo yavo b'harsha'ah. He doesn't come on behalf of someone else to collect a loan. V'lo kablan. And he doesn't come across as a kablan. It's like a stronger type of guarantor. Or according to the commentary here, they say it's, he takes deposits. Some say kablan is a deposit taker. Others say kablan is like a arev kablan, a guarantor who accepts a more wide-ranging responsibility.
You're not supposed to?
Talmid Chacham will never do that. He doesn't want to get into money issues. Mechayev atzmo b'divrei mikach o mimkar b'makom shelo chiva oto Torah. He will obligate himself in matters of business in a place where Torah didn't make him liable, just kedei sheyamod b'diburo v'lo yeshaneo, so he can stand by his word and never have to change it. Other commentaries read it the opposite. Eino mechayev atzmo. He would not take on new responsibilities where he doesn't have to, so that he can always stand by his word. If he takes on new responsibilities, he may end up misspeaking. If others become obligated to him monetarily in judgment, he's patient, he forgives them, he gives loans, he gives gifts. He never enters the business of his friend. He never bothers a person ever. Again, the general rule is he's from those that are chaste, not the chasers. Those that are embarrassed, not the ones who embarrass others. If a person acts in these ways, and any other similar ways, Allah v'katuv omer, about him the verse says, Vayomer li abdi ata, he said to me, you are my servant, Yisrael asher b'chayat ba'ar, you are the Jew about whom I can be very proud of.